Hello and welcome to Items On, the podcast where you get to follow your favorite Melee players and personalities both on and off the sticks. My name is Ethiopium, and today we have Squid. Squid, how you doing today, homie?
Hello, I'm doing great. Nice to see you.
Awesome. Let's just get straight into it. How did you find Smash? What were you doing before Smash, and what time period was it?
So now it's been a long time. I'm officially super old school as a player now because I started in about 2009, technically, which was when Brawl came out. The way I found Melee was that like Brawl was coming out and Melee was already my favorite game. So I was just like Googling like, oh, Brawl release information character. And I found like a match of like Ken playing or something, or Mewtwo King. Actually, I think it was a match between Mewtwo King and Mango. I remember the first match I saw. So I like tried to wave dash, couldn't do it. And I was like, all right, I'll just play Brawl. And then I played Brawl for like 6 months. And then I was like, all right, I'm bored. And then went back to Melee, and then Melee was like way better. So I just like stuck to Melee ever since. So yeah, it's been a really long time now.
What things did bore you about Brawl that you found such longevity in Melee? I mean, you've been grinding for a while.
Yeah, it's partially it's just like the execution part of it where like it's like you're playing tennis and you just like master the serve on like day 3 and you're like, oh, you just don't have to practice the serve anymore. Like you're done. You've got it. And you're like, oh, what? That's it? Like, but like tennis players will just practice their serve for like 30 years, you know, and then they're just like still slower than the pros. So you're like, okay, that's really sick, you know? Yeah. So yeah, I think that like my favorite technique in Brawl was Dacus, which is dash cancel up smash. And I main Sheik in Brawl, who's like really bad. She's low tier, but if I had kept playing, she would have been top tier, you know? But no, like Dacus was like relatively hard for her and she would like slide across the whole stage and up smash. And I was like, all right, this is sick. But like, it's not that hard. And it's the only tech. So once you have Dacus, like you're done. So then I was like, is there anything else I can practice? I'll try wave dashing again. So yeah, like when I went back to Melee, I was like, oh, now there's like 400 things I could work on and they're all hard and they're all cool. So like, yeah.
Was some of the allure to Melee then just that solo practice grind that you get to do those different type of techs practicing in and day out? Because there's always something to learn, I feel like, in Melee.
Yeah, I think so. I was a big solo grinder when I first started, especially. So nowadays I really liked like strategy and like PvP aspect of the game and stuff. But back then I would just like solo practice for a long time. Also, since there was no net play and stuff back then, like the game being fun to solo practice made it more attractive. Because like if you just play a game and there's no one to practice with, well then if you solo practice and it's boring, like you're done, then you're just like, well, the whole game is boring then, because you're not gonna like, you only can go to so many tournaments, especially back then. So yeah, I think the game being like, if you felt productive when solo practicing, and then when you went and played with other people, it's also more fun and you feel like your like practice pays off. So
Awesome. So how did you go from, you know, playing solo and practicing your tech skill to, you know, jumping into the scene? Was there like house tournaments or certain like locals that were influential to you coming in?
Yep. So I was in Southern California. The first local I ever went to, I remember it was called like Father Cohn's house or something. I don't know who that person is anymore. I didn't know them then. Like I just remember the name of the tournament, but it was like some garage in like some random city, like near LA. And there was like 19 entrants or something, one of which was Mango. My first tournament match of all time was a doubles match of me teaming with a random person I met there against Mango and Psycho Midget. That was my first Melee tournament match of all time. We counterpicked Poke Floats. It was really bad because they were playing Fox Puff, and that's just a really good team on Poke Floats. So yeah, so it was like a different era then. And Mango wasn't like, you know, uber famous back then or anything. It's just like, he was just like some dude in a garage, you know, playing the game just like everyone else. I was like, now it's like, oh dang, it's like imagine Mango just going to 16-man like garage tournament. Like
Did you know those type of players when you jumped in? Did you know who Mango was or Psycho Midget or any of those guys?
So I knew Mango basically because of, like I said, like I found like YouTube videos of Melee before I went to tournaments and stuff. I remember like I found like a bunch of like old school combo videos and stuff, like Gimpy Fish's Bowser combo video or like forward Falco combo videos and stuff. So yeah, I knew like a little bit, but not like a ton. Also, like Melee was super dead because like I joined the scene after Brawl came out, and that was like the dark ages of Melee until 2013, which is when the documentary and Evo happened and stuff. So I joined and I would only go to like 13-man tournaments with like 11 of them being PR'd players and me. And I was just like getting owned. Like there was not that many tournaments. It was like once a month or less or something. And they're like not big tournaments or anything. So I like to say that I was like a born again doc kid because I joined in 2009, but I was like it was my favorite game, but I was like, whatever, like kind of playing whenever and going to tournaments, getting owned. And then 2013 happened, and it was mainly Evo. Like it was before the doc even. When Evo 2013 happened, I like watched that from home, and I was like that. Like it was like my favorite run of all time. Like just watching that tournament happen was insane. And then right after Evo, SSS started. That was a tournament series that was like put like everyone would watch SoCal at SSS all the time. There was like 9 or 10 like really notable PR players at the top, like Lucky, Westballs, SFAT at the time and stuff, all like going to every single one of them. So that started right after Evo. So I watched Evo and then started going to SSS, which was a tournament every 2 weeks, which was insane. It was like, oh, we consistently have a tournament every 2 weeks now, which is so that's when I started like grinding hard. And I got ranked in Southern California in 2014. So basically like I played 2009 to 2013, like kind of. And then 2013 is when I like started grinding hard. And then 2014 I got ranked. So yeah.
So you were talking about how, Super Smash Sundays were influential for you. Evo, the doc, to instill that fire. What were some of the things that made you say like, okay, I actually want to take this to the next level. I want to be like very competitive. I want to get ranked in a very, very tough region.
Yeah, so it wasn't anything like poetic, I would say at the time. It was just kind of like I just played the game and wanted to get better and would like try to beat the guy sitting next to me. And I would go to the tournament and like lose. And then I would just like think about who my opponents were and be like, how could I beat him next time? And I think the thing about going to tournaments like regularly is you start to get to know the people that go there and you put a face to like your competition. So it wasn't like, because like, this was before streams. Like streams were just kind of starting, like Twitch was, nobody had a personal Twitch stream. So you had no dreams of like making it in esports or like becoming famous. That wasn't like even on your radar. You just wanted to like beat the people that were there, So I remember back then I used to keep like a Google Doc and I would write like a title for the tournament and like my 2 losses and then like any notable wins I got. And I just kept this Google Doc going like an Excel sheet for every single tournament for like 3 or 4 years or something. And so I just had like every loss. And then every time I would lose to like those players, I would like in a separate Google Doc, like Word document, I would just like write out like a little tiny paragraph for every single player I lost to or something. And so I was just like constantly being like, I need to figure out how to beat these guys or something. And it was just like very like addicting to just kind of like get that loop of like go to a tournament, lose, think about the loss, and then like practice for 2 weeks. It's like a mini like Rocky training montage between every tournament because they were like structured every 2 weeks. So like the next time I play this guy in 2 weeks, I'm going to do something different and I'm going to like have practice something and have like a plan or something. So it was just like a very like reinforcing the loop to just like keep going every single tournament. So
that's really interesting. I want to ask you a couple questions on that because I think a lot of players struggle with like burnout or struggle with, dealing with the rankings or the pressure of trying to beat their demon and bracket. And it seems like for you were excited about it. You're like, I want to write, I want to take the notes, I want to grind, I want to get back at him. Well, I mean, was that a mindset that you just came into the scene with? Is that something that you had to cultivate to get better?
Okay, so the first thing is I've like basically never, it just got all blurry, but I basically like never experienced burnout like over the entire time that I've played Melee. I've taken like little mini breaks, but for the most part, I just like really like playing Melee and really like trying to beat people. So the biggest like burnout I had was over COVID, where like, actually, what is happening with my camera? Can I just like refocus?
No worries. It always happens during the podcast,
it's always during the live stuff, Should just refocus. But what was I talking about? Oh yeah, the biggest burnout I had was like during COVID because like when Melee kind of switched to online only, I didn't feel the same like connection. Because for me, a big part of like what kept that fire going was like seeing the human next to me and needing to like beat that human, So when it was like online tournaments, I like tried like 1 or 2 and I was like, I don't really like it. And then it kind of like simmered off. So I like came back in like last year to like re-enter competition, and it was kind of like, I've kind of like fallen behind a bit and have to catch up now. Other than that though, yeah, my like mentality for competition has always been just like next tournament, if I lose, I'll like there'll be something I can change. I always like playing the same people again and again. So if I lose to someone, I want to play them again because I want to like try something else. I never lose and be like, I have no idea what I could have done. There's nothing else I could do. I'm like, wow, I did a lot of things really poorly. So I'm going to like try like a few of those things differently for next time. So
Do you think, I mean, how were you able to balance, like, there we go,
I just have to
crystal
like adjust
clear.
my
Yeah,
monitor.
it happens to everyone, I swear. How do you think you balance like that community where you want to build a community, you want to make friends, you want to be homies, but you still have that, I can tell, a very competitive drive about you where you want to beat the man sitting next to you, like you said. How are you able to balance that? Is that just something where you plug in and you just in go mode and you plug out and you're the homie, or is it something different?
I think I aired. It's kind of weird. I definitely aired towards the competitor aspect of it. I think like building a community in Melee like requires a lot of different people. So you like really have to be thankful for your TOs and for your like streamers and like people who just like build communities and like cultivate friend groups and stuff like that, because I've never been that useful of a community member in those senses. Sometimes like I'm always supporting the people that do that, but I've never really been a big TO myself. I tended to just mostly focus on the competition, and outside of that I just try to be friendly to people around me like in everyday life. So I tend to be like I never really have like enemies in the community, but when I sit down, like I want to beat them. And like if I'm at home, like I'll be like, oh, Captain Face Roll, you know, like, like even though he was like my best friend, like in the community for like a really long time, I just like had to like, you know, make him suffer when we play in tournaments. So yeah, I just like it's kind of a separate thing, but also it's I think I just like in my brain, I was mostly competing and like wanting to get better at the game. And then it's like a really nice, like almost incidental benefit that there's a great community that like exists there, you know?
Yeah, that's interesting. Were you like a competitive person outside of Smash before you found it, or was Melee the thing that unlocked that competitive side?
So I had like a few competitive things before Smash. Smash was the biggest one that I like threw myself into. So there's two or three main ones that I had beforehand. So in high school, I did tennis, which I got like on the varsity team of tennis. I wasn't like super good. I was like kind of like bottom of the varsity team. So like the like top 3 players get put on singles, and then like the bottom 6 players get put on doubles. And I was like the 3rd best doubles team. So like the worst player on the varsity team, but like I enjoyed competing and improving and stuff like that. But I wasn't like addicted to tennis. Like it was just like, oh yeah, I enjoy trying to get better, but it wasn't like my favorite thing. The bigger one I had in high school was actually debate. I did policy debate, which was like a weird form of debate in high school. It's like whatever you're visualizing for debate, people tend to think of like trying to be very persuasive or speaking in a very compelling way. This was very competitive in a way that one of the rules is like you have to answer every argument. Anything you don't answer is just like conceded, like you lose if you don't answer. So the meta is just to talk really fast. So like it's basically like tech skill in Melee. Like you have to go as fast as possible. So fast, like let me just give you an example. We would basically talk like, like that fast.
Really? And how could you even understand that? I didn't know what the hell you just said. And I listened to rap, man. Like,
yeah, it is like rap battles, you know? So it's like people that don't do debate would like walk in and sit down and be like, oh, you're going to a debate? Like, let me come in and watch. You literally can't understand what they're saying. So it's like saying like, oh, how can you move that fast with Fox? Like, it's like, if you don't play Melee, you can't move that fast with Fox, you know? So it was like, oh, it's like this niche community again of like people that did this like specific, because there's other types of debate in high school too, but policy debate specifically is like that. And you can like look up YouTube videos of it too. It just like sounds like they're trolling, but then like, that's just like how you do it. And you like, there's a structure to it. Like you read like a certain part of it slower so they can write down the note, and then you just like blast through the evidence part of it. And then you read the next note. And then like, so, but yeah, that was the first thing that like really cultivated my competitiveness, because our school was really good at debate and had like a lot of resources in it. So we had like more coaches than most other schools and stuff. And I got paired up with someone that was like really into debate. They had gone to like camp the summer before sophomore year, and they like for 30 days just like were grinding debate at camp, and I didn't go. Wow. And then when they got back, I got paired up with him, and I was like, well, I can't just be the noob that's like holding him back, you know? So I started like going hard, and then we got pretty good. And yeah, my senior year of high school, we ended up like qualifying for the big like national tournament or whatever. And wow, that's when we were like, okay, like we made it. So that was the biggest like, okay, I can like dedicate myself to something to try to improve and get good at it. And that's probably where I really learned, because like when I hopped into Melee, I like got a lot of habits from debate and stuff, and it kind of stuck with me. And then the final competitive activity I had pre-Melee was StarCraft 2. I played StarCraft 2 before Melee, and that came out I want to say like 2009 or 10 or something. I don't remember exactly, but I graduated high school in 2009, and then in college was playing StarCraft 2 a lot. And my biggest influence in StarCraft 2 was Day 9, who is like a content creator now who does like Magic the Gathering stuff. But back then he was like the best. There was one year where he was the best non-Korean StarCraft 1 player, which is like kind of a title. But he started doing like a lot of educational content in StarCraft 2, like doing daily like 1 hour shows, live shows of like breaking down analysis of like certain play styles and stuff like that. That's where I learned how to get better at games specifically. And that's probably where I learned how to improve the most. Because like debate was one thing, but it was so structured because it's in school and you have coaches telling you what to do all the time. But StarCraft, I had to get good on my own, except that I had Day 9 helping me, who's like just this like content creator online who did a show every single day for years. So yeah, I think that like because I never got like super good. I got to like master rank or something. And that was like a lot of like implementing Day 9's like philosophy on the game. And he's always like relentlessly positive and like analytical, never tilts. And he's like, make sure that you like look for a reason why you're losing and stuff like that. You can always like break down things like more and more specifically. So when I like picked up Melee again, when I called myself a born again dot kid in 2013, that was after StarCraft 2. So I had like gotten good at StarCraft 2, watching a lot of Day 9. And then when I picked up Melee, I was like, okay, how do I apply all of this stuff that he's been talking about to Melee? And it felt very one-to-one. Like it was like easy to do basically. Like, yeah, of course it's like the same thing as StarCraft. Like in StarCraft, it's like, oh, I need to like move fast enough to spend my money. And then in Melee, it's like, I need to move fast enough to hit my shine or something, you know? Like it's like, it was just like the same like process of like improving at one game and improving at the other. So yeah, I kind of like had a few different competitive adventures before Melee that all culminated into like, okay, now this is the important one.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I have a quick question on that, which is I was talking to Swift and we talked about how sports, like we both did cross country and track and how that shaped our competitive mindset. And you were talking about tennis and debate, and you just explained very well how StarCraft was easy to transition. How about those other two aspects of competition that you competed in? Was there any type of transition that you took from debate and tennis and implemented into your Melee?
Yeah, I think they mainly, the thing is, I explained them sequentially. So they kind of fed into each other. So tennis was the first one, and I was like total noob. And when I started tennis, like I took private lessons, but I was like my mom is making me take lessons, so I'll go to, and I kind of just like clocked in. And like my coach would tell me things that were probably extremely valuable. I didn't really like take him to heart at the time. So it was kind of just like, oh yeah, I should probably practice more. But like I would mostly only practice at practice. Like I rarely practiced on my own and stuff. But there was still like the way you practice tennis is you get a lesson. Like most of the time you get like a private lessons or something if you actually want to get good. And it's like a one-on-one with someone who's like way better than you. And instead of like playing the game, they just serve you the ball over and over and over and over again. And you just hit like your forehand for like an hour straight. You're only hitting your forehand. And he's just giving you little pointers every time. He's like, oh, your right foot was a little too far forward. Oh, you don't want to like turn your racket that far back. Okay, your shoulder's going a little too far. So like that process for improving at tennis of just being like, look, there's not that much value in just playing a tennis set with someone way better and getting smashed. Like I wouldn't really get better, you know, but there's a ton of value in being like the actual thing you're trying to do at get like to win at tennis. You're not trying to like win at tennis. You're trying to hit a forehand that's good enough to win you the game at tennis, you know? So you break down the specific tools that you're going to use to actually win the game of tennis. And that really translated to how I practice tech skill in Melee. I'm not just going to grind games and be like, I'm going to play a game until I win against this Fox player. I'll like play the Fox player and be like, oh, my wave dashes are just way too slow. I just need to grind wave dashes until I can move fast enough to win this game against a Fox player. So I think like a lot of like how people practice Melee is pretty inefficient. And that was one of the things I took directly from tennis to just be like, no, we should practice because like think about how many more wave dashes you practice if you just practice wave dashes for 1 hour compared to if you played a game, you do like way fewer wave dashes, you know, like wave dashes per hour is like way lower. So yeah, that was the biggest thing for that. And yeah, I think debate was more of a like an overall mentality thing because debate was a team activity. It's like teams of two, is 2v2. So that one was a lot about like learning to work with someone or something, which has like some benefits in Melee, especially pre-net play where you kind of had to collaborate with people to practice, because if you wanted to get games, you had to like find someone that lived in your area and like drive to their place and stuff. And then like learning to work with someone, like it's helpful to like talk about the game with the guy that you're playing if you're both trying to get better. So Irvine, which was the city I lived in when I was playing a lot of Melee, was like I always had, it was like me and Kira, me and Stab, and then me and Captain Face Roll. I always had like a duo partner essentially. And I would like talk about the game a lot, grind with them a lot, play with them like 2 or 3 weekly tournaments per week, all the time. So yeah, I think that was probably the biggest thing with debate. And then also with debate was like the tech skill aspect of it. That was also like less specifically, because like the way I practiced tech skill, talking fast in debate, was more like, oh, I got that from tennis. Kind of like I just practiced talking fast. Like I would like probably solo practice more than most debaters, because like I really like execution, basically. So like I probably could never become a chess player, even though I think chess is pretty sick and I like it. I really like execution practice. And I like the fact that you can like either get better at the game strategically or get better at the game executionally. So like you kind of need to have that duality for me to be like addicted. So all the things I've done really have that duality. So like tennis is mostly execution, but there is some strategy to it, like which side, it's like whether you go up to the net or not and stuff like that. Debate was very much so like that. Like talking really fast was a huge benefit in the game. But also, obviously, having good arguments is good too. You know, like incidentally, being good at debate is useful for debate. And then StarCraft was also like that, where it's like APM is like StarCraft is the game where people talk about APM the most. Like, oh, the Korean players have 700 APM when they play StarCraft. So I was pretty addicted to like getting not only high APM, but like making use of it. Because some people just like spam and then they like, oh, have it hype. And I tried to have like efficient high APM when I played and stuff. And then also you want to like, it's literally a strategy game. So like you should have strategies that you're doing in the game. So yeah, I think that like all the things that I've like focused on have always had that duality of like strategy and execution.
Nice. Moving on a little bit, who were some of the people that were influential to you? I mean, picking Falco, for example, were there, certain Falco mains that you watched or that you saw in tournament who influenced you?
Yep. So my favorite Falco player was always Dr. PP's when I started. There was kind of like, at the time, there was like the Mango and the PP like duality. There was 2 Falco players that were way better than everyone else. So you kind of everyone picked one, of like personality types of whether you gravitated to one or the other. So I think like the original reason I picked up Falco is because I watched like a lamb chops combo video or something, or maybe it was even just like a literal match. Because my very first tournament, I was a Fox main, just because I was like, oh, he's like the fast character, and I got owned by a Falco player, and then went home and like Googled Falco tournament or something and found like a lamb chops video and just switched. So like I literally, the first tournament match I lost, I switched to Falco, and for some reason that wasn't like a newbie. So for some reason, I stuck with that forever. So pretty lucky there. But after that, yeah, it was pretty much Dr. PP was my biggest influence. I still say that Day 9 was my biggest like gaming influence, period, even in Melee, just because like that guy's insane. I don't know if you've ever seen his content, but he's like, I'm the most articulate gamer.
I'm pretty ignorant when it comes to StarCraft, so I got to check it out.
Yeah, he's also like not as big anymore and stuff. He was like one of the first 10 Twitch streamers ever back when it was Justin TV or something. So that's like how boomer like my gaming like discussion here is. But yeah, so I would say like my influence are like Day 9, then Dr. PP, because Dr. PP was also good at articulating the game, which I think comes from like my debate background as well. I just like articulating the game as well. So like I like talking about the game in a certain way. Like I've done some commentary before. So there's like, that's another part of the game that like I enjoy. And so like people that are good at the game and good at articulating what they like doing and stuff is cool to me. So because PPMD has had this ongoing Smashboards thread for Falco and now Marth for like since 2009 or something. Like these threads are still active to this day. PP's still posting there. So yeah, he was like the guy that was like, not only is he really good, but also he'll tell you why he's doing something. While like you'll watch Mango especially back then, and we would just be like, what the heck? Like, I don't understand at all. Like, so yeah, I think that was like part of the reason why I like PPMD, because like, especially because I'm a pretty analytical player too. Like I said, like I would like write paragraphs about like what I'm working on and what I'm trying to do. So I couldn't just like play someone and then like get a feel for how to beat them. I would have to like list out things I'm working on. So when I like PPMD would write like, yeah, you should dash back after your laser. I'm like, dash back after laser. Gotcha. So yeah, that was super sick.
touching on that a little bit, do you think that like back in the day where melee was a little bit more nebulous, like we weren't talking like frame data or that much, at least compared to today.
Hmm.
Do you think that like that articulation and that analyzation that you had in your gameplay, do you think that that shaped your play style in any way? And if so, how?
Interestingly, so like the playstyle was kind of different back then because of a few tools that were missing. So first of all, we didn't really have 20XX or Uncle Punch, right? So when you solo practiced, you literally booted up like a game against a level 2 CPU, or you just plugged in a second controller or something. And we all had like a bunch of little tricks, like you could turn on items on very high with only Starmans, and then Starmans would spawn everywhere and make you invincible. And then you could practice shine pressure on an invincible opponent. So you have like hit lag because you couldn't just turn on infinite shield and practice shield pressure, you know? Or you would turn on the handicap like really high or really low or whatever, so that you could just like fight a Bowser and just like combo him. And you just do like shine downer, shine downer, shine downer, and he doesn't go anywhere.
Yep.
So like that's how we practiced back then. And because I liked solo practicing so much, I just had better execution than everyone in 2013. So like people used to tell me, they're like, dude, if I had your tech skill, and this is like a top 10 player talking to me, like in SoCal, and I was unranked at the time, like if I had your tech skill, and I'm like, don't tell me that, you're just calling me stupid. Like, so yeah, I think that like nowadays, everyone who's pretty good has really good execution. So I like to say that there's now like 300 top 100 players and they all just control their character really well, are really fast, and they can all double shine, they can all ledge dash, you know? But back then, like I was the Falco that ledge dashed. In 2013, there was just nobody that ledge dashed.
You were the first, you were one of the first where I was like, oh my God, he's ledge dashing. This is crazy.
It was like insane. It was like even considering to do it. Like, so yeah, that's not really an advantage anymore. Cause like everyone should have execution, and now it's easier to have execution because you can just boot up the training tools that like make it easier to practice. And they tell you like, oh yeah, you jumped late. And back then you would miss a ledge dash and not really know what you did wrong. But Uncle Punch will be like, yeah, you can see you dropped for 2 frames, jumped 1 frame late, and air dodge wrong. You know, like, oh, I see. So yeah, I think that like execution across the board is better now. But part of my play style back then was just having good execution, which is not really a play style. But I would just try to brute force it. Like I would like do the West Ball shines. Like I was really good at those back in like 2014. And I would just like only do that as my shield pressure. So, but a lot of people just didn't have the execution to shield grab between like shine waveland down. Like even though it's punishable, you have to be pretty clean on the shield grab. But because they weren't clean, I could just keep doing it. So like a lot of playstyle back then were just like super fake, you know, like it was just like not really understanding whether something is safe or not. And it was just like vibe space. Even for analytical players, you just didn't know actually what's going on with like the interactions and stuff. So I kind of switched from like a tech skill demon to like a super like nerdy analytical player, like somewhere between. I don't really know when that switch happened, but from like entering tournaments nonstop and stuff. And then as the tools got released, and then finally like net play, now there's like, you can practice in so many different ways from home, and you can just get good. Like I think we're kind of in an era now where like the personality type of people that can thrive at melee are people that are able to grind at home for long hours. So if you can play like 8 hours a day and not get burnt out, because, you know, you asked me about burnout and I never got burnt out going to tournaments and practicing, but I can't really play net play for 8 hours straight. That kind of like it's not the same like feedback loop of like having someone there and stuff. So I am working on that because I think it's necessary to reach the next level, basically, because right now the people that are thriving are playing 8 hours a day, or something like that. You know, they're just playing, they're able to play long periods of time without being like, net play's kind of tiring, you know, or like, I'm kind of tilted, you know, because I like don't get tilted at all IRL, but sometimes on net play, I'm just like, why am I being so dumb? And then I'm like, wait, why am I doing? Like, I would never do this IRL and stuff. So I need to like readjust my mindset a bit to just be like more improvement focused and stuff. So
that's interesting because you touched on how you were, you know, like this tech skill god and how you're trying to brute force it. And then there's some point where as the tools were released, you started to become more of the analytical side. Was there any like moment or any like certain point where you're like, okay, I need to break down the game a little better. Like I'm just forcing it too much, or was that more of a gradual switch as well?
I think it was kind of a gradual switch. And also I think it was always kind of going to happen. Like the order that I wanted to learn the game was to like learn the tech skill. And now that I have the tools necessary, let's figure out where to apply them. Cause it felt weird to like analyze neutral. And I would like look at my neutral and be like, my wave dash, like I just missed a wave dash. Like why even bother looking at neutral? Like I can't even wave dash. Let's just figure out wave dashing. But you can kind of fall down that trap forever in melee. Like there's always execution you could be better at. but I kind of felt like I needed to get to a certain level of execution before I even cared about like studying my neutral and stuff. Because that is how I learned StarCraft as well. Like in StarCraft, the big thing in that game, like you like gather resources and then you spend your resources to make an army. And it's just hard to spend your money. Like the game is fast as well. And so like people that are bad at StarCraft will just bank up a ton of money and be like, oh shit, how do I spend my money? And you need to like build more buildings that make people. And then, oh shit, now I have too many buildings and stuff. So like having the execution to just like build stuff means that you automatically get to like diamond level or something, you know, like to use like normal gaming ranks. Cause like you will just have more stuff than your opponent. And then there is no like strategy. Like you just have twice as many things as them, so it doesn't matter what unit they built. So that's how I got good at StarCraft. I was like, okay, I need to figure out how to spend my money and get the APM to like move my army around while building stuff. Now that I'm fast enough to like do that, now let's learn strategies and builds and stuff. So that was the same thing, my same like mindset in Melee. I was like, I just need to spend, and I didn't know what the timeline would be, but it was like, I need to spend a few years just doing tech skill. And once I can like control my character, then I can be like, all right, should I laser approach or should I laser in place or should I dash dance or should I, you know, or should I early aerial or late aerial? Should I go to the platform or on the ground? And then like, as I started to break those down more, it was easier because I could control my character already. So it was like, I don't have to be like, okay, I need to like do a laser to here. I can't do that laser though. Every time I do it, I like just jump off stage and kill myself or something. I was just like, oh, I can just do that laser. I'll just do that one now, you know? So it was like a more rapid like improvement loop once I already had the tech skill. It's just that like, I was just a tech skill noob for a long time. Like I was just like the player that would just like, oh yeah, he's got clean tech skill, but you can just shield grab him, you know? Like, so yeah.
That leads us to our part of the show called the Michigan connection question, where I loop in a player from Michigan. That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
So for example, today is going to be Polymath, an up and coming Falco here at UM, who asked, is there anything that you would name the Squid when it comes to Falco?
Depends if I'm trolling or not trolling. If I'm trolling, a lot. And a lot of things a Squid. Definitely like back in the day, I used to name more things a Squid, especially because like in 2014 or 15, when I got like pretty good, there just like weren't that many players in the game, period. And because I was in SoCal and playing on stream all the time, I was like relatively more famous than I should be for my skill level. So like I used to just call like ledge dashing as the Squid, or like West Ball Shines was the Squid, even though it's literally West Ball Shines. Yeah. Yeah, nowadays I have a bunch of things like individual, like what's the word? I have like mantras that I'll call, or like little traps and stuff that I do. It's like one of them I'll forward smash on a side platform to catch short hops, and I'll be like the Squid. One of the biggest ones is I'll do like ledge dash shield. Now I'm holding shield in the corner, and like a common thing is someone will dash dance in front of you and then they'll like eventually grab. So what I do when I'm ledge dash, like I'm just holding shield, and you know the shield trick where you make your shield like light shield small, light big, light big, light big. So I'll do that like really fast. And the moment my opponent realizes I'm doing that, they're like, he's just shielding. I'll go grab him. And then when they go grab, I spot dodge. Genius spot dodge time. I get it every time. So you're like shield, big, 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 spot dodge shine. I'm like, I'm a genius.
That is so funny, man. I can see that tilting so many people.
And then like another one, I do tech and place forward smash. That's the Squid. Everybody tech and place spot dodges. So people wait for the spot dodge, forward smash, just hits them. Also tilting. Yeah.
I've been noticing that, like, this is a little bit of an aside, but when I do like tech in place or something like that, a lot of times you do like a defensive option, like shield, or maybe like if you're a fox, like shine or something. But sometimes it's just good to do like that wake up Shoryuken, like in fighting games.
Exactly.
I just do like up smash or something. It just hits a lot of times.
Yeah. Because it's like, if you accept that your opponent can tech chase you, like, hypothetically, they could have just gotten the tech chase and then there's no reversal, right? Yeah. Because you're vulnerable before you're actionable in Melee, not like in Street Fighter where there's like you can block frame one that you're awake or whatever. So like he could have just gotten you. So if you're like buffering spot dodge or something, you're just hoping that what he's going to do is try to grab you, but be too slow. So like if he gets you, you know, but if he doesn't get you, then you may as well play a real mix up there and you're just actionable. So you have everything available to you. So that's when I'm like, you can just forward smash. You can approaching nair or something, you know? So then I'm like, and people really like just waiting for the spot dodge, because getting spot dodge shine is like the worst feeling ever, you know?
Yeah.
So then you're like, instead of getting spot dodge shine, I will stand in front of you confidently, forward smash, you know?
I wanted to revert back to that time period in 2013, 2014 when you were starting to build your name. That was such a distinct time period, especially in the region that you were in. Can you describe just like, those Super Smash Sundays, those monthlies that people had? I mean, that was during like, if I remember right, like Kings of Cali was around that time. Yeah, can you just describe that? Because there's so many people who, grew up watching those VODs or got into the game because they were watching that.
Yeah, it was crazy because those SSSs were getting like over 100 entrants, like just a bi-weekly that was getting like over 100 entrants. It was like, felt like it was like the thing happening at the time, you know, especially because like Evo just happened and then the doc happened, and those happened like a few months apart, and then SSS was happening, and it was like all at once. Melee, this like, because Melee was already an old game then in 2013, right?
Yeah.
Like, because it released in like 2004 or something. So like it's already a 10-year-old game or whatever. And out of nowhere, it's everywhere. Like it's just, these tournaments are huge, and it's kind of like exploding. There's like majors happening with like 2014 was when there was like MLG and Evo. And so there was like a bunch of like big tournaments happening too. And the like regional rivalries. Kings of Cali was like the NorCal SoCal rivalry. At least that's how it was like marketed, you know?
Yeah.
So, and then there was like a lot of, because at that time I was ranked probably like in the 17 region in SoCal or something. So SoCal was like stacked. Like it like ran deeper than most other regions, and the tippy top, like SoCal was close to the top region back then. Like it was either like SoCal or like Florida or something. But like for a while, it kind of felt like SoCal was the best region. That is definitely like no longer the case. like SoCal kind of like has fallen off a little bit. But back then it was like a lot of the top SoCal players were just like some of the top players of their character and stuff. So just being in that region felt crazy, because even though I was like pretty good, I was getting like 13th or 17th at SSSs, you know, like the tournaments were just like that hard. And it was like, yeah, so it just like felt like you were part of something that was like pretty big at the time. Cause like even getting 17th or 13th was pretty good out of 100 something entrants at like your local, you know? So the local would like spill out into outside because the venue like wasn't big enough to hold everyone, you know? And you're like, dang. So yeah, I think it was definitely like a fun era and stuff. And I was like just kind of getting like lost in the grind, you know, because like I was just like playing, and like I described my process of like going home, like studying, practicing and stuff. And at the time I was also like going to school and working. So I would go to work, go home, like watch the VOD or something, and then like practice, and then like go to sleep, go to work, go to the tournament, you know, like it was just like always like part of it and stuff. So yeah.
Did that structure, did you love that structure? Was that something that you thought was like, I have to do it in order to reach my goals? And do you look back on that time with any regret, or do you believe that that was more of a blessing of formative years?
Definitely no regret. I think I've never actually had like big goals. I'm not like a super like goal motivated person. I just kind of like am more of like a process motivated person. So I just kind of like wanted to get better, vaguely. And like in order to do that, I should like practice. And like while I was practicing, I was having fun. So it wasn't even like a sacrifice. Like I wasn't practicing like, oh, I have to practice, otherwise I'll never beat this guy. It's almost like practicing is just what I wanted to do at the time. So it almost like fell onto my lap of just like, oh, I'll just get good because I like practicing, you know, like I didn't like, no one had to tell me to practice. I'm just practicing, you know? So when that's kind of like what's happening, it's hard to like compete with people who are doing stuff kind of like naturally, because that's kind of what I was mentioning right now with my current like weakness, being that I don't really like grinding net play. So my weakness is that I have to compete with people that are grinding net play without being told to. They just like doing it, you know? So I need to find a way to like make it more fun if I want to compete with those people. And I do want to compete with those people, right? So like you either have to like outwork them, whether you enjoy it or not, right? Because like you can brute force it and just like put in the hours. That tends to be like unsustainable or kind of hard to do, right? Like if like realistically, are you really going to put in as many hours as like, you know, Hacks Money Best of 5, who's playing like 500,000 ranked games nonstop, you know? So it's just like those types of, like you look on rank sometimes of like at the top 200 or something, and like some people like B-Bats always has like over 1,000 ranked games played within like a few weeks of like the ranked reset or whatever, and you're like, dang, that guy's getting good, you know? And it like makes sense because he's just like, when you have like that drive or something, it's kind of just like innate in you. So yeah, I think I had that drive more innate in me back then in terms of like what I wanted to do was probably the most productive thing to do at the time. Because it's just like, I really want to solo practice and go to every tournament that I can. And that's like how you got good. There was no Uncle Punch, there's no net play. So if you solo practice and you went to every tournament, that's as much as you could be doing, and you're just getting as good as you can. And nowadays there's like more that you could do. So it's like, do you enjoy making Uncle Punch save states and practicing specific scenarios? And do you enjoy grinding ranked long net play sessions, either with specific people or grinding ranked, because you can always practice now at home. And it's not just about like getting ready for the next tournament, like mentally, it's like, you can just literally get better,
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's interesting. I wanted to touch on how you processed through different stages of Melee. I mean, you talked about how you built up and how you got pretty quickly after that resurgence of Melee. But I think all Melee players know that when you be working on something for a while, that doesn't necessarily translate into results immediately. Were there any like tournaments or any moments where you had that breakthrough and you're like, okay, like I'm at the next level now. I really believe that I've hit like this certain plateau or this certain like benchmark for me?
Yeah, I think I a long time ago I made a tweet. There was a joke that was like, I'm the what, I don't remember the exact wording, but like the like slow yield. What's that? The term like bonds in like finance, the like low yield bond that just
like low yield interest bonds that just
I was the low yield bond of Melee. I'm just like getting better 10% every year, and just like I'm inevitably gonna get there eventually,
Yeah.
And like when I first got ranked on the top 100, I was ranked like 78, and then I was like 69, and then I was like 61, and then I was like 58, and then for the summer rankings or something, I got like 49th, and I'm just like consistently going up 9 spots a year. I'm coming for you, Mango, So I didn't have like a meteoric rise, even though I got like ranked pretty quickly. 2013 to 2014, I got SoCal PR, which is like pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
But once you're there, that's like, you've reached the summit of the mountain or whatever, and you're like, wait, summit the bottom or the top? I reached the bottom of the mountain,
the base,
and then the quest to reach the summit of the mountain is now like just begun, because like you have to like get to Mount Everest before you even start climbing Mount Everest. And I think like getting PR'd was kind of like getting to Mount Everest, and then I wasn't climbing Mount Everest that quickly, So in my mind, I was always like consistently improving at the same rate forever, because I always like had something to work on. I never felt lost. Like some people will say like I really don't know why I'm not improving. I would like, if I ever watched a VOD, it was like hard sometimes for me to watch a VOD, because I was like, everything is bad. Like I was never confused as to why I was losing. I was like, West Balls is faster. He's better punish game, better neutral game. He's better at this. Like there's nothing I'm better at than him. So like, of course I'm worse, So that was more of like the problem I had of just like how do I address everything at once, or like how do I prioritize, like which thing do I work on first? And sometimes I would just like work on whatever I felt like that day, which meant I would do something like make a little save state of doing like platform warp aerials, because like I just discovered this on Reddit and it just like sounds cool. And then I'll like make a little like task setup, and it would take me like 3 hours to set up this school, and then I'll like tweet out this GIF, and I'm like, hey, nice. And like, does it really make me bad? I probably should have just like done laser dash back for 3 hours, I would have been better, So I was more kind of like, there's definitely stuff to work on, and I will work on something, but not necessarily the most efficient thing. And that just like resulted in me like consistently getting better, but not like rocketing past people, I think. Because I think nowadays we have a better understanding too that you should probably work on punish game first. So like almost no matter what character you play, in order for neutral to make sense, you should have your punishes be pretty good. And then working on punish game makes more sense now, because like we have it broke it down more, like you should just know the Marth chain grab, and you should be able to reaction tech chase, and you should be able to like know the percent that like up tilt knocks down and stuff like that, So like people have the punish game broken down so well now, like kind of across the characters. So you can just get a really good punish, and then your neutral can just be fishing for that punish. And then you get smarter at your neutral from there, But back then I would just be like, I should really work on my neutral. And then I would just like soft nair people over and over and over again and never like get a combo started. And I would like own people, except I'm not really owning them, because my neutral is like fake, because it's not actually threatening the right options, Yeah. So I think like I always had this problem of like prioritization, where I was like, I'm not necessarily like, if I had a coach and the coach like knew how to get good at Melee back then, because that's the other thing is like Melee's so new that it doesn't like, So it's an old game, but when compared to something like tennis, it's really new.
Yeah.
Because in sports or something, you'll have like parents that have played for 80 years that like get a kid, and then their kid is playing from the age of 3 and coached by someone who's been playing for 80 years. And then they get a coach. That coach has been coaching for 40 years. Melee hasn't even been out for 40 years. That guy's been coaching for 40 years. And before that, he was playing for 20. You know, there's just like such a structure of improvement that was kind of lacking at the start now. And I think people are now starting to understand like, oh, this is the pipeline for getting good at Melee. And so like we've had some people now that's gotten really good in just like 2 years or something. And that's because like now you have Slippy and the resources are just so much better to just be like, you should work on this first, you know? If Cody watches a VOD of someone, he'll just like very quickly tell them that like, yeah, your Fox is not good enough at the platform tech chases, you know? And it's just like, oh, you should do that before you figure out how to multi-shine. Like, of course you should do that before you multi-shine.
Yeah. Do you think that that's something, because you do coaching as well, shout out if you want to get some coaching, hit up Squid. Do you like think that that's a problem for a lot of people like starting the game or like sort of like in that 2-2 phase or just coming up like prioritization? They're just not prioritizing the right things or the right punishes or the right options in certain scenarios.
Yeah, I think that prioritization is probably the biggest thing for improvement. Like learning to prioritize what you should work on is as important as how much work you're putting. Because maybe more important, because you can just, if you're working on the right thing, you can put way fewer hours than someone who's working on the wrong thing, right? Because like just 15 minutes a day on like the right thing is like a big deal. But some people play way more than that, and they're just like grinding unranked or something for like 4 hours a day, and that's actually probably not going to get you that good. Like that gets you to like that 2-2 region, and then you feel stuck there for a long time, and you're like, I'm gonna play unranked and try really hard, and trying really hard essentially means like. And it doesn't like nothing happens, you know? Like you can't really try really hard and get better. That's not really a thing. You just get better by like doing better things or having better execution. Oh, see if I can.
No worries.
So yeah, it's like if you wanted to like lift really heavy weights and then you just like repeatedly like picked up the heaviest bar and tried it, and you're like, still can't lift it. It's like, well, you actually will never get there with that strategy. You have to lift smaller weights consistently 3 times a week for 2 years, you know? like it's just like, we know how to like get a human to be able to lift heavier weights, right? Like, it's like this is what you have to eat, and this is how often you have to train, and this is how many like reps and sets you should do with this much weight or whatever, right? So I think it's kind of like that in Melee too, where we're starting to be like, okay, don't just like play more Melee, like like lift the correct weight for the right amount of sets, basically. So yeah, I think that's kind of what I've been focused on for like kind of creating a pipeline for like sub top 100 level up to about a top 100 level. It's starting to become clearer to me, especially for Falco and like the other. Like I mainly coach Falco, but I also coach like Peach and Fox quite a bit, and then a little bit less of other characters. But it's starting to become clear to me like what that looks like to like get better up to that level, because it's just like anyone who's not top 100, I can like list like between like punish, lasers, platform game, edge guarding, ledge game, and it's like this is what you're not doing on all of those. You know, like you can kind of like break it down, and then like in this matchup, you're not working around like Marth grab, Peach dash attack, puff grab, you know, like every like chic forward tilt. It's like very clear what you're not going to be good enough at. Like before I even watch your VOD, if I kind of know loosely what level you are, I'm probably now going to know what your VOD looks like. Because I've watched like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of VODs of players like around that level. And I've done like a lot of lessons, and I have like a lot of like rules, quote unquote, like I call them mantras or something, like follow this rule. Even if it's not technically correct at top level to follow it forever, just follow it for now, and you'll like play neutral in a structure that makes more sense or whatever, you know, and then like your VOD will be more useful to analyze in the future. So yeah, that's like how you can end up prioritizing the right things, because if you just kind of like practice in a structure that kind of makes sense to you, you'll end up practicing the right things. And then it'll be very clear that like, oh, I literally can't laser dash back and dodge chic forward tilt. I just need to be able to do that. And then you practice that, you definitely get better results, you know, because that meaningfully changes that interaction. But if you're just like, what if I jump shine 2 frames off the ground instead of 3 frames off the ground? And it's like, that's the same interaction. That doesn't actually change anything, you know?
I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this, because I think that I see a lot of players who say that they want to improve, they want to do the steps necessary, and I feel like there's a
Mhm.
lot of options and a lot of, content and media centered around improvement and the steps that you need to take. And yet we don't see that prioritization. Do you think that there's just like it's trying to find that balance of having fun in the game
Mhm.
while still like prioritizing like, all right, I need to practice like shuffles or I need to practice like ledge
Yeah.
dashing. I mean, how
I
do you
think
find that for your students? Because you don't want them to just turn into just like, all right, there we go again. I got to do
yeah.
more but you also you got to get down the basics too, right?
Hmm. Definitely, I think part of it is like managing expectations because I think for a certain, uh, most people essentially don't have the respect of the game that it kind of deserves.
Hmm.
It just takes a long time to get good at stuff, and people kind of know that, but don't want to believe it. In the same way that they believe it for more established competitive activities like sports. Nobody just thinks that they should just be able to serve 150 miles an hour like Nadal, like they're just like, yeah, that's going to take me years and years and years of very focused practice. And I should instead work on my serve and get a little bit better every day for years. And it's not like, oh yeah, in 3 months I should be able to serve like at pro level. It's like, no, it takes years to be able to serve at pro level. You can serve at whatever level you're at now and just work on it. That's your current level, accept it. But it takes years, and you're actually never done. Like the pros are still working on their serve regularly. Like part of their practice is practicing their serve, but people kind of only practice shuffles for like the first 3 months. Yeah. And then they grind ranked, so you actually still have to practice shuffles like forever, like one of the things that I remember is like PPMD, when he first started streaming, he would stream his practice and he would just do like laser dash, laser dash, laser dash. And he would do like laser wave dash, laser wave dash. And I was like, it was so basic, like he was not like, if you watch Axe do his tech skill practice routine, there's like a video of like Axe Falco tech skill or something. It's like on YouTube and it's just like a sequence he did. And he's just like moving. He's like jump, shine, waveline, jump, falling laser, right, waveline, edge cancel, edge cancel, edge cancel, edge cancel, edge cancel. And I'm like, oh my God, And then you watch PP and he's like, wave dash,
Yeah.
because you really need to be able to do the basics perfectly. And essentially they're like, Melee is a game that doesn't have that many super advanced things. And even the super advanced things is just a basic thing done quickly or at a specific timing. Because you jump and then you hit a button to do an aerial or an air dodge. There's no motion inputs in Melee. You don't like quarter circle forward, half circle back, blah, 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 boom. And then you get it. It's like there's just jump and air dodge. That's pretty simple. But an air dodge on frame 6 is a perfect wave dash. And on frame 7, it's a wave land down. And on, and on frame 13, it's a perfect wave land on battlefield site platform, So it's like those basics take you forever and you can technically be frame perfect on every single input in Melee because there's no buffer at all. So you can always get better at the basics because there's no way you're frame perfect on every single input. So like you can short hop, and then aerial frame perfectly, fast fall frame perfectly, L cancel, dash frame perfectly, jump frame perfectly, shine frame perfectly, wave dash frame perfectly. Like, of course you're not done practicing tech skill. Every single input in just a basic short hop, nair, shine, wave dash could be frame perfect. Like there's no way. Yeah. So I think once you have that sort of like respect for the game, then you have the right expectations to just like, oh, I should just practice it and not expect to have it down. Like you just practice it knowing that it's a long journey. Because I think people think that like, oh, I should just practice it until I can do it. But no, you just practice it forever. And once you know that, it kind of takes the pressure off because you're just going to practice it no matter what. It's just like part of your routine. You practice it for X amount of time or whatever. Or just if you're just addicted, you just practice a lot, And I think that like once you know that, you can just like get in the routine of just practicing all the time no matter what and just improving. Because I think a lot of people just kind of stop way too soon because execution in Melee is like absurdly hard. Yeah. So you should just keep doing it forever.
Yeah, like to play off that a little bit, like one of the guys who coaches me negative, he's a Falco main out here.
Mm-hmm.
He gave me like a list of just like tech skill things I need to do. Like I'm your just random 2-2 fox, right? And so just, classic, short hops, practice your short hops, practice your full hops, practice your shuffles. And I was like, man, this guy still does this stuff and he's still like work. And it like dawned on me like, oh, you got to just do this. Like Kobe Bryant still dribbles every day. You know what
exactly.
I mean?
Yeah.
So I definitely understand what you're saying. I wanted to ask one more question though, because you made this point that I was really interested in, which is a lot of Melee players don't have the respect for the game in the same way. Like sports, like you just said, like, I don't think I can go out in the, and return anybody's serve worth a damn, And I knew that would take me years to get to. But in Melee, you watch, some Falco do like a pillar combo that you've seen, and you just sort of expect that you can do that. Do
Hmm.
you understand, or do you have any ideas why that wrong idea is placed in a lot of people's minds? Because that's something that I struggle with too. Like I'll watch a fox do something and I'll be like, I can implement that today. Like, and then I'll try to do it in tournament and I will air dodge off the stage.
Yeah, I think that it's both the execution and also recognizing. This phrase is like kind of a meme nowadays, but the mental stack, because like while you're playing, in order to recognize the certain thing that was done in game in the moment is actually way harder than just executing the thing. Like one thing people can do now is you can see a mango combo, and then you could, if you want, replicate that combo in Uncle Punch. And that's like kind of helpful to do actually in a way. So you could like watch the mango plup Falco versus Fox combo on Yoshi's Story that he won like Shine 2016 or something. I don't remember. But it was like top platform to side to top to side, and then he kills him with a forward smash or something. Like that was one of the sickest like last stock combos to win a game 5 against like in a tournament set. And you can watch that and be like, that was a really sick combo. When you watch that combo, it's like shrow hop down air, Shine Waveland, shrow hop down air, forward smash. Like it's not that hard, you know? But in order to do that combo, one, executionally, every part of that had to be executed pretty well in the moment, and he could have dropped any single one of those, right? He could have shined on the wrong side on any one of those. He could have down aired and not fast fall properly, and then it drops the combo. Could have missed an L cancel or something. So recognizing that, like, that's actually a lot of spots where you can drop a combo, even if it's a pretty simple one. And then two, the decision to, like, in that moment, know what type of combo you should go for. Because I don't think that, like, doing a combo is ever a black and white situation. It kind of depends on the matchups and stuff, because like some certain like chain grabs are just flow charted, you know. But a lot of times the combo is a decision to like push the flow of the game in one way or another. Like I can generally combo you towards the left side and look for a left side edge guard, or I can generally combo you to the top platform and look for a kill off the top or something, you know. And because you'll never actually fully know their DI, but you can kind of know that, like, okay, if they DI left, I'll kill them, and if they DI right, the combo will at least keep going, and I can look for a different combo finisher later or something, you know? So that sort of like awareness to have in a game is easy to overlook, where Mango made those calls really quickly in that combo while executing the combo, while doing it game 5 in a really stressful situation, where most people in that situation, the main thought they have is, holy shit, my hands are shaking and the crowd is really loud, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's actually hard, and then it's even harder to like execute upon it in high stressful situations, because I think that like the what's the word, not execution, I guess it's kind of to execute things, implementation, I guess it would be, to implement things like into your play is harder than just to execute things. So like having the respect to be like, okay, I can execute that literal thing that guy did, but would I be able to implement it? Like, would I see that in the moment, you know, like when I'm in there in tournament game 3, would I have seen that option instantly? Like if you like flash an image. Have you ever seen the TikTok GeoGuessr guy, Rainbolt?
Yeah, that's crazy. Oh my
Yeah, so
goodness.
he'll have things, he's like locating like picture on the map with just 0.01 seconds and black and white and reversed and it's pixelated or whatever, you know? It's just like flash, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, so it's one thing to be able to like recognize where that image is in the world. It's another to be able to do it in 0.1 seconds, right? Because that's essentially what you have to be able to do in Melee. It's like reading my opponent's DI in 0.1 seconds and on the left side of battlefield at 44% and it's last stock, you know?
Yeah.
It's like that'd be like a boring TikTok, but that's essentially what's happening every single like interaction in Melee. You have like a flash, and you can also anticipate a lot more, because like the way I have my combo structured nowadays is I tend to like push my opponent to one side, and I have percents that I like to end combos at. One of the examples I have is Falco versus Spaceys. I have what's called the 40, 60, 80 rule, which I end my combos at 40, 60, or 80%. And it's not really like a hard rule, because Melee is like not really like that. But by having that hard rule, it means that like if I have someone in the corner at 40, I'll just take the forward smash, and that's a good combo finisher. But if they're at 80, I'll take whatever, like I'll just back air them if it's at 80, because I don't really want to combo someone past 80. So by having like that general structure, when I shine someone at 20 in center, I'm immediately thinking, okay, am I going to end it at 40, 60, or 80 off the left or off the right? immediately. And I'm like, okay, so he DI'd to the platform, so I can probably jump shine waveland, and then if he DIs left, I'll end it at 40. If he DIs in, I'll do one more combo and see if I can end it at 60. And then we can go to the top platform and I'll end it at 80 with a forward smash. So like that level of anticipation is like, I could pause on any hit of a mango combo and talk for like 10 minutes, because like there's so much that you could consider in the same way. And like ultimately he just picked an option and you can be like, oh yeah, I can do that option. Yeah. But do you have the same like 10 minutes worth of consideration that Mango had in that moment? Because he didn't only pick that option. He considered a bunch of other ones and then chose that one. And also, he also could have done the other ones and probably still killed off those other options as well. That wasn't the only world where he kills Plup, So it's kind of like if you watch like a chess move and then you like saw a chess move and you're like, I could have moved my bishop there. It's like, well, of course you can move your bishop and put it there, but that's like not the skill in chess, And melee is hard because it's both. It's like you have to be able to like calculate the moves, like preempt the moves, think about, and then foresee, and then do the move. But also the execution of it is hard, and it's like harder than people think. It's like that's kind of like what I was stressing. It was like everyone knows execution is hard. It's actually harder than you think, because like you don't just need to be able to do it. You need to be able to do it with absurdly high consistency, like 95% plus, like 93% is not high enough. That loses you tournament sets, So you need like really high consistency, and you need to have such high consistency that when your hands are shaking, you still have 95% consistency, and stuff like that. So, and when you're like thinking about other things, you still have 95% consistency. You're like thinking about like, man, what will my friends say if I lose this set? Mm-hmm. You still execute the combo because like you will have intrusive thoughts in tournament,
Yeah. Well, that leads me to one more question on this topic before we go back to your come up and the rise into the net play era and COVID. But one question that I wanted to touch on was the word you said, mental stack. Can you describe to us what that is and how do you personally deal with that in tournament? Because I know, like, for example, Wizrobe will do like, he really focuses on his eating out of tournament and his breathing techniques in tournament. What works for you and how do you deal with it?
Yeah, that's a really good starting point, actually, the Wizrobe thing. Because I think that like when you're practicing, you want to be thinking very specifically about what you're doing. So if you're like in Uncle Punch or something, you want to be thinking about like what do my hands look like when I'm inputting a wave dash? Like, am I stressed? Am I squeezing the controller too hard? Am I hitting air dodge 2 frames early consistently or 1 frame late consistently? And like, you want to like break it down that way. In game, I think you want to clear your mind as much as possible. Most thoughts are not useful in game. Almost all thoughts, like, oh, I missed a ledge dash. Was I too early? Do not think about that. Just, oh, I missed a ledge dash. Move on immediately. Put no thought into it, So the more I can like clear my mind about things, and in fact, even actual productive thoughts, like I tend to just want to keep it to pretty like broad reads on my opponent, or very specific reads on my opponent. Like on my invincibility, he goes to the right side and likes to roll or something, like I want one read. And then I was like, nice, I had a productive thought. Because otherwise I mostly want to just like let my autopilot kind of do it and then be like, okay, generally space close or generally space far, generally play on the ground or generally play on platforms. Like that's kind of like where my general thoughts are. And then I just kind of like let my hands do it. Cause the game is too fast to like have conscious thoughts and describe what's happening and be like, laser dash back, dash in, short hop, late down. He forward tilted. Okay, well now I'll double jump. Oh shit. I'm like, it's like already too late. Like 10 things have happened, Yeah. So yeah, I really like then physiological things like Wizrobe described or what you described. So like sleep, eating, hydration, caffeine intake. So like manage, like on tournament day, those are a lot of the things I focus on is like spacing out, like when I drink water, how much water I drink, and like how often I use the restroom. And I try to like drink water like 10 minutes before the set so that I go to the restroom 2 minutes before the set so that I play my set and I sit down and I'm hydrated and don't have to go to the restroom, Yeah. And then I want to eat like an hour before the set, but not too much. And then I might eat, like bring a protein bar or something. If like there's a long bracket stretch, I eat a protein bar or something, like physiological things like that are really good to just like focus. Because if you're thinking about those things too, you're not thinking like, oh my God, I really don't want to lose this set because then how will that affect my ranking and stuff? And what will people think? Like those thoughts all really suck. And those make people way worse. Mm-hmm. So if you can instead just think like, how many calories have I eaten today? Did I get enough protein? Like that stuff is actually like more helpful, I think. Because if you just like have a clear head because you're like healthy, that's like probably more powerful than like hard worrying about like, what's my shit game plan today? It's like cramming for the test or something. Yeah. Like you can't really do it. Like the day of, like if you haven't studied enough for like the MCAT or whatever, you're not becoming a doctor, you know?
Yeah.
Like-
Well, that leads me to one. I said I wanted to move on. So really quickly, I
Yeah.
wanted to ask one more question on it because I'm really interested in this, which is adaptation, especially at the highest levels. I think at my level, you might not be doing as much adaptation, but at your level, you're definitely having to do adaptation in between games and even in during stocks. How are
Mhm.
you able to keep a clear mind while still processing like, okay, maybe I shouldn't go for this down arrow, or maybe I shouldn't go for this type of laser, or this tech J or XYZ?
Yep. So I think first of all, I think at top level, there's less adaptation being made than most people think as well.
Okay.
A lot of mix-ups that are happening at top level are just like pre-built in. Like I just like I'll laser and then either dash back, dash and down air or dash and down air. It's not really an adaptation. I just randomly pick X amount of time for both. And it's kind of like it's almost like a probability distribution. And it might be like 30% of the time I'm aggressive, 70% of the time I like scout out my opponent with like a safer laser or something. And then like as the set goes on, it's like a sliding scale. It's like, I can be a little more aggressive against this guy. I can a little more defensive against this guy. Like read platform a little bit more, read platform a little bit less. But I never know what my opponent is going to do. If I do, then I'm way better than my opponent. Like if I'm playing someone that I'm like going to own, then I can be like, he's going to roll here, forward smash the other way, and that can be like pretty funny. But against those players, you don't even need to adapt because even if I don't adapt, I'm probably just going to win. Like I don't need to read that roll to win because I'm probably 3 stocks ahead anyways,
Yeah.
So it's like against the really good players where it's close, I can't be too specific with my read. I kind of just need to stick to the game plan and like play solid play. I can make like certain reads or something, but a lot of times it's going to be like kind of focusing on not getting read myself. Because if I'm like really predictable, then I was like, okay, he finds a spot where like it's a complicated enough scenario where every time it happens, I roll left. So it's like, and it's never as simple now. Like at low levels, it's like you like approaching laser, he rolls, you forward smash, But at high level, it's like Falcon will like run off back air, turn around jab, dash dance, short hop nair, and then I roll or something, And he like I played Nun recently and he found that like he would do Nair Gentleman and then he found that I would like roll, like I would be buffering roll during that sequence or something.
Yeah.
So then he did Nair into just 2 jabs and then he read my roll away with a knee. Like he jab, overshoot short hop knee. And I was like, like that was like a specific read he found while playing solid neutral, right? And it was kind of like one of the only like specific reads I remember. Like this was like a game 5 set and it was like he had 1 read. Like that's pretty good. And that's like None, who's like very read heavy. Like he like obviously it wasn't the only read he had, but that's kind of like the level you want to think of it is you don't want to have too many reads while you're playing. You're kind of just playing your game. Cody, for example, can beat 99% of players without ever making a read because he's just brain off so fast, so solid, and like making good decisions, whether he knows what you're going to do or not, that it doesn't like really matter. So like a lot of adaptation is going to be like pretty automatic. Like what you should kind of aim for is your game plan kind of forces your opponent to play a certain way. So like your game plan is so like, for example, if you like full hop in place with Fox against Falco, there's only so many things Falco can do to kill you, So you no longer have to worry about just like instant early approaching down air. He just dies if he does that. So like he can read you with full hop shine. He can be spamming lasers, which you don't like have to read, but like now you're kind of stalemating. He can try a certain dash dance sequence, but you should be full hopping in a way that you don't land at the same timing every time. So you can full hop double jump, full hop wave land, full hop fast fall, full hop no fast fall, like, so if you're like just mixing up that, then you're like, okay, when I full hop in place, there's only like 2 or 3 ways I could possibly die. And if he does that, I'll start reading it. So that's a way that you can have like what looks to be like a really high level adaptation, but you already knew that like I will do this. And if this option happens, then I'll adapt. So it's like a pre-built adaptation that like you knew before the set even started that you're ready to make that adaptation if it happens.
I see. Okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, because like it's rare now that like I do my game plan and my opponent does something that I didn't expect and it beats me. Because if they do something I didn't expect, it's probably bad because like I've tried to think about all the good options,
Yeah.
So like if you do one of the good options, I'm like, oh, okay, he's doing option 2. Let's do the counter to that, or it's like, oh, he's doing option 2. That's kind of a stalemate. We're kind of fine. Let's keep playing the game and see if we can find an opening somewhere else, But if it's like, he like full hopped away, air dodge straight down, I'm going to go ahead and not worry about that option. That doesn't do anything.
So I wanted to get back into the timeline a little bit. We talked about up to around 2015. You were in college. Were you going to UCI at that time?
Yep.
What were you studying, by the way?
Economics.
Nice word. And
Didn't.
so, you know, a lot of players, they get in during their college time. It's like a very transformative year. How did Melee, what was Melee looking like before COVID? Like, were you still around the UCI scene? Did you move for work? What did it look like?
So after I finished college, I stayed around Irvine, like surrounding cities like Fountain Valley, Tustin, and then eventually Irvine. So I was always living like around Irvine and part of the UC Irvine scene as well, because UC Irvine scene was thriving for a while after I left too.
Hmm.
They had Captain Facial as the president of the Smash Club, and after he left, it was Kadoran as the president of the Smash Club. So through those years, Captain Facial and Kadoran were like pretty big TOs that would host UCI tournaments as well. Once Kadoran graduated, the scene almost collapsed instantly. It was like held up a little bit. Cards was the next president, and he was still hosting some tournaments, and it was like, okay, but not having the like greater SoCal clout makes it harder to get non-UCI people to come to your tournaments. Because like Face Roll and Kadoran were ranked in SoCal, so Cards was not ranked in SoCal, so he would host, and like UCI people would show up, but he wouldn't get like West Balls or S2J to show up to the tournament, you know, because he's just like, who's this guy, you know?
Yeah.
And then after Cards graduated, I'm not sure who the next president is, but I know that the weeklies started to get like sub 10 entrants almost, you know?
Wow.
So it's kind of hard for like a scene to like stay consistent for a very long time. But I was kind of like in that area for a long time, and I always had like I mentioned, like when I was playing, I had like Kira, then Face Roll, then Kadoran as like consistent in region like rivals essentially that I was like practicing with all the time. So yeah, I think that having someone near me to practice with all the time pre net play was really big, because like essentially you almost get like little cliques, almost like crews. It like wasn't a literal crew, but like you get like your crew. So when you go to the tournament, they're like, oh, there's the Irvine crew that practices together versus the like East LA crew that practices together versus the, you know, like stuff like that. And it's almost like you develop play styles based on that, because now it's more homogenized where people can play with each other and just learn everything. But back then it's like yeah, Face Roll and I play and we talk, and so we kind of play similar, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that was kind of interesting to where I kind of like developed play styles based on those relationships that I had, like just locationally.
And then so when COVID hit and the net play era begun, you know, you've been saying this whole interview how you love playing beside the person, talking with someone, the community aspect of it. How did you deal with that? And, you know, now we see you back in the scene, gaming again. How did you jump back in?
Yep. So basically I quit. Like when COVID first started, I basically didn't play. I didn't enter a tournament for 2 years, basically.
Wow.
Like 2020 to 2022, I didn't play much, and I would play unranked, because especially this was like pre-ranked, and I would play unranked, and like it was okay, and I still love the game. That's the thing. Like I still played, and I like started coaching. I don't remember exactly when I started coaching, maybe right before COVID or something, but I like went more into the analytical side of the game then. So in fact, to answer a previous question about like when something switched between being a technical player and an analytical player, I like tripled down into the analytical side around COVID, because I was like, now I'm like going to focus more on coaching than on my personal improvement and like creating a structure. And like, so for example, like I have like clips saved for like every matchup on every stage, both in neutral and punish. And like, so like if I have a new student who comes and asks for a lesson on like Captain Falcon, I kind of have like a spiel now for how I start that, because I have like, here's my 3 neutral game clips that I talk about the structure of the game. Here's my 3 punish game clips. I talk about that. All right, now let's watch your video. Okay, see how this is different than the neutral game clip. Okay, this punish right here. Here's a different clip that shows how this punish can happen. You know, like, so I have it all, like I focused on that aspect a lot, to just be like, let's break down the game in a structure that makes sense. Because Melee is not that structured of a game, basically. I played Street Fighter 6 recently. Like I kind of played that for a while. Not like super hard, but I like was learning the game. That game is very structured.
Oh, yeah.
Like that game has like very black and white frame data. Like you're just +3 or +4 or -2 or -3, and then you're like, oh yeah, you use your 4 frame move if you're -4. You're like it's like very math based almost, you know. frame data is just like a feel in Melee. Like there is plus and minus, but you never actually know exactly how plus or minus you are. Because when you do like a nair, you can do the latest nair kind of consistently. You don't even know if you're going to hit or not. They could like point their shield up or down. They could CC or ASDI down or true crouch or get hit in the air. And it's all different, you know, like they could light shield and suddenly you're not +0 anymore. You're a little different, you know, they could half light shield. Who knows what that does to frame data, you know? So there's just like so much like nebulous, like feel-based stuff in Melee that adding some structure to it, I think has been very helpful for me. Even if the structure always comes with an asterisk that's like, don't follow the rules too closely because it's still Melee, you know? like in Street Fighter, you can kind of like when you're +3 in this spot, do one of these 3 things every time. That's the mix up. It's one of these 3 things, you know?
Yeah.
But in Melee, it's still not like that. Like you can be like post shine on a shield, feel it out sometimes. But here's some 3 things that you could start with, you know? But sometimes, you know, just like read it, you know, or something. Yeah. I don't know. So yeah, I think that like that was kind of what I was focused on for like a couple years. And then coming back. So I recently moved to Montreal about 1 year ago. So I live in Canada now. And that's because that's a whole story, but I was born in Montreal and my parents retired back here. And so like I follow them for now. So I'm back in Montreal now. And when I moved to Montreal, I basically, because I entered a couple tournaments in SoCal in 2022, but not really many. So basically when I moved to Montreal is when I like, okay, I'm going to start again. And I started entering tournaments and Montreal scene is pretty hype. There's Lunar Dusk here, who is like probably the best ice climbers right now since Slug is not really active anymore. And so basically I had like a similar thing to Irvine where I have like one rival near me, you know? And then they actually had quite a lot of tournaments when I first moved here. Right now, Montreal's kind of struggling in the TO department. Like we don't really have a weekly right now, but when tournaments happen, they still get like 30 entrants and stuff. So that's pretty good. And then I, at the very least, have Lunar Dusk as like a rival, which is like very fun for me. So I've been like, basically this last year has been like figuring out how to get good again in the modern era. Cause I think like when I first came back, I was definitely a little bit behind. Not nothing, because like I still have like years of experience and stuff, and like I used to be a tech skill demon. Now everyone has tech skill, but like I'm not like that far behind in the execution department. But compared to like, you know, Cody Schwab, I'm a little behind. So I'm like trying to figure out how to like bridge that gap now, and that's kind of been fun for me too, to kind of be like, okay, what, like, because you kind of have to spend some time to figure out where you're at. Relative to everyone else in the competition. So last year I didn't make top 100. So there was no top 100 2020 and 2021, right? And in 2022, I think I was like barely active, if not just not active. I'm not sure if I entered enough tournaments or whatever. But regardless, I'm not even sure I was good enough. Like I probably wasn't good enough, you know, because like I definitely like fell behind. And so then this year, I like over the last year, basically, because I moved almost 1 year ago. It was August of last year. So that year, I've kind of like figured out where I am relative to the scene, both like just locally, but also nationally, because now I've entered quite a lot of tournaments, especially the last few months. I've been traveling more and stuff. Like I've entered Wave Dash in SoCal. Then like I went to a Minnesota regional, Wisdom. Then I entered like Shine, Gommel, like Genesis this year. So I've entered like quite a few majors and stuff. And now I've started to do like pretty good again this year. I probably have good enough results right now to make top 100. I have like quite a lot of top 100 wins and stuff. So it was just helpful to be like, okay, I can kind of like catch up to where I was like literally like skill wise. I'm like as good as I was before, and relatively, can I catch up to like my top 50-ish level that I was before? Because I'm probably not quite top 50-ish right now, but I'm pretty close now. I think I could like see a world where I'm kind of like relative around top 50-ish. Like that's kind of where I was before. And it's never that consistent because top 50 is not like, that's a big range. I think like 40 to like 80 are all pretty similar players or something. So yeah, I'm starting to like feel like finding my groove to be back around there. And then the next question is, okay, well, how do you improve in the modern era from there, right? Because whenever you reach a new level, you have to find something new to push you forward. Like you can't just have the same training method forever. Part of your training method has to include reevaluating your training method because whatever you're doing will get you to a certain point, and then you have to like, okay, but I need to like change it up a bit to get to the next level. Sometimes that's in-game stuff. Sometimes that's like real life habits. Like I practice this much, VOD analyze this much, and I play this much, and then you like adjust that ratio as you get better to be like, okay, right now I need more tech skill practice. Okay, right now I need more VOD analysis. Right now I need more games. So sometimes it's stuff like that. Like I just need to adjust how I practice, or I just need to adjust like my life habits and stuff, or I just need like, oh, in game, what are the top Falcos doing now? Because Falco's doing pretty well right now. Like Mango's kind of inactive right now, but Fiction, Magi, and Ginger are all like top 20-ish level Falcos right now. So I've got like 3 templates to kind of like steal from, and they're all doing a lot of stuff way better than me, right? So I'm like, okay, what are the options that I'm not utilizing correctly in game, and how do I practice to get them good? So yeah, that's been like a lot of my focus, and like this last year was almost just like finding my spot, and then like in my head that's like, this is the year where I can like see if I can push forward again and see how quickly I can do it. And yeah, I'm pretty optimistic. So
that's awesome. Well, I could talk to you about Melee, I feel like, for 10 more hours, but I want to get into a couple questions before we wrap it up about life outside of Melee. Let's say, you know, we take away the controller, we take away the console. What are you going to be doing throughout your day? What is something that Squid likes to do to relax? Do you have hobbies outside of the game that you are as passionate about?
No.
You'd be surprised how many people answer that. No.
Yeah, no, I think that Melee's like, it's like a bug. Like it just grabs people and then that's your life. So
Yeah.
I think that like if Melee had never existed, like who knows where I'd be. I'd probably would have found a different competitive activity to like throw myself into. And yeah, I don't really know. My other hobbies have been more like fitness related recently, of just like I run a lot, and I like try to focus on like my nutrition more and stuff. Over COVID, I actually gained a bunch of weight. I was like 180 pre-COVID. I went up to 226. So I gained 46 pounds or something. That was my highest. And now I'm back down to like 160 or something. So I lost 60 something pounds since
That's
then,
impressive.
you know?
Man. Wow, that congrats on that.
So
that
like
is so hard to do, man. That is, you're looking great, homie. You're looking great, dude. Congrats on that.
Thank you. Yeah. So it wasn't like easy in terms of like mentally, but actually it's the same thing as improving in Melee, where once you know what to do, it's pretty free. Like you just eat X number of calories and you lose weight. Like that's that simple, you know, or you run X amount every day or whatever, you know, like, so to me, it was kind of like, another thing to apply the same mentality for, you know, let's dust off the old day 9 mantras once again, except this time for, you know, fitness and stuff. So, and in context now of like getting better at Melee again, it's fun to like compare now to be like, okay, now that I'm focusing on fitness, that can also feed back into Melee, because having good fitness habits is probably also just good for Melee. Like you just like think clearer and like have a better mentality. You also just sleep better if you're healthier and stuff. And it's like, I like to meme about how like Melee is like the reason to like succeed at life, you know, like it makes you like eat healthy, exercise, and sleep, which is like, you should be doing that, you know, like you should be healthy to like, you know, live a good life or whatever. Yeah. And it's funny when like, oh, so like what motivates you to be healthy? It's Melee, so I can beat Lunar Dusk, you know, like if I'm not healthy, I won't beat Lunar Dusk. So I have to get healthy, you know, like I need to meet my macros and eat the right number of calories. So yeah, so I think that like, that's kind of like what I've been focused on and stuff. So I quit my job shortly after COVID happened. I used to work in like an office business job, like on a legal team doing a thing. Yeah. So since then, I've kind of been full-time Melee / coaching / like helping my family with stuff, because my family's kind of like getting old now. Yeah. And so now I live like in Canada with my family, because I moved in with them shortly after COVID. So like I quit my job, moved in with my family when like around COVID, and I was like, okay, quarantine won't last that long. Then it lasted like a really long time, and then I was kind of like, okay, whatever. So
yeah, that's how it went for a lot of people. I feel you.
Yeah, exactly. So now I'm here. So I'm not working currently, other than still doing coaching and stuff. It's not like super full time, but like it's like a decent amount. And then I'm probably like, as I'm like finding myself now, because it's been a year in Canada, I feel like I'm finding myself. I feel like I'm finding my competitive place. And then I might like, the next step would probably be to like make content as well, like start doing streaming and YouTube and stuff, especially because like I really have enjoyed coaching, and I think I've close to like being happy with where I'm at in coaching, and want like the next step would be to like kind of like document it almost. Like I want to like I have so many like mantras and like I described, I was trying to make like a pipeline for how to get better.
Yeah.
I want to make that like a series almost to just like now I can reference it to people. I don't have to, charge X amount of dollars for a 1 hour session, which I don't think is like the most efficient way to do coaching as well. Like it's kind of hard to like optimize that, but like it's not the greatest way to help the greatest number of people, basically, to do like one-on-one coaching or something. So yeah, I think I'm going to be focused on like some content stuff in the future and stuff. So kind of a roundabout answer to be like, what are my hobbies? It might be like more content creation stuff in the coming future. So
well, I'll ask my last question will be on content creation, because this is something that I'm doing now, and it's definitely like a completely new thing for me. It's not something that I necessarily like wanted or something, but I just felt uncomfortable and I thought it would be good. And I also love talking to players and getting their stories out, especially in the day and age where social media is really pushing these narratives that may or may not be true or may not represent what the player wants to put out there. And so I would love to ask you, like, what would be your mindset when creating content in order to be not only healthy, because you're going to get criticism, you're going to get randos talking mad shit for no reason, but also happy in making it as well?
Yeah, I am not super good at answering this question. So first of all, I just like don't really believe the internet is real. So like whatever randos talk shit, it like has zero effect on me. I just like can't believe that it's a real human there talking that shit. I remember like I don't remember what it was or exactly what I tweeted like something about Melee. It was like some tech or something like about like whatever. I used to tweet all the time like random Melee tech stuff, and someone responded with like, wow, you're like top 60. You don't even know this. Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah.
It's like, what?
And I just started dying. I was like, who is this guy? And I just responded with like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, just imagine like that interaction in real life. It just like does.
Yeah,
I was like,
never
dude,
happens.
like, did you know like you can do like a mid height down air and just like a multi-frame window to fast fall, and it's -6, which just barely beats shield grab. You didn't know that? Jesus fucking Christ. And I'm like, who are you? Like, where did you come from? Like, so I just like I can't imagine like hearing that and just being like, oh, do I suck? So yeah, I think that the real answer is that like you kind of want to be your own driving force for whatever it is you're doing. Like if you know why you're doing something, you kind of like can't be steered off course because you're like, well, my compass points north, like, what are you talking about? So that's always how I've been with Melee, where it's just like in Melee, like I know what I want to do or something. So it's like what I'm working on. And like, I almost like sometimes like didn't want to hear advice. Like people would tell me something to like in the game. And I was like, you're right, but I'm currently already working on something and I can't work on two things at once. So I'm just going to keep doing my thing. Maybe I'll eventually get to that. And I know you're right, but I just can't do it right now, So with content creation, I think I want to find like exactly how, like, basically what I want to do is create some sort of not like textbook, but like pipeline. I don't know. It's like structuring like there's going to be some educational content essentially. And then maybe separately, I'm going to do like streams and, whatever, like more personal stuff or whatever, like how some people do it. But the main thing I want to do is some sort of like I want to document the things I have learned about Melee over the last couple of years and like in the coaching sense of it. Since I like know what I want to do, then it's going to be like mostly me driven. It's not going to be that, because like some people will be like, oh, like I'll pull what the community wants to see and then like do it for them. Right now, I kind of have this like, no, I know what I want to create and put it out there so that it's out there for people. And so I'm going to like focus on making that as best as I can do it. And then I know what I'm doing. And it doesn't matter what people think, I just want it out there or whatever. And I'm not necessarily doing it for like, I think this is going to pop off and get a ton of views. Yeah. It's like, I kind of just think if my Falco textbook was online, it would be kind of cool, because then if people were like, oh, do you have any tips for like Fox's full hop? And I'm like, check out this little playlist I have. It's like 6 videos and they talk about Fox full hop on Yoshi Story and Dreamland, and it's different on FD, and you can, like stuff like that. So it's like, if I just like had that documented, I think it would just be like a cool thing to exist in the world. So yeah, it's kind of like, I think when you think of it that way, like you're making content just because you want to make something that's like cool to exist in the world, right? So even like something like this podcast or whatever, it's like, it's just kind of cool if this exists in the world, and like there's like clips of X player talking or whatever, and like you just kind of get this player's story or whatever. It's just kind of cool that it exists. So if someone's like, your lighting sucks, but it's just like, who cares?
I'll
like,
probably
I just
hear
to, like,
that.
make something.
I probably will hear that on this one. But that's something that really resonates with me, because like, I mean, I don't think I'm going to get more than 100 views on any of this stuff, right? This is just for the homies, and like, because I really think that's important for the scene. Well, with
Yeah.
that, I want to wrap things up. Do you want to do any shout outs? When are we going to see you at the next tournament? You going to Riptide? You going to Big House?
So I'm not going to Riptide, unfortunately, but I
RIP.
am going to Big
Hell
House.
yeah, we'll see you there. The Michigan boys got you then.
Yep, exactly. So that's like 2 months away still, I think.
Yeah,
So
October.
yeah, so I've basically been going to like one tournament per month. I had like a trip to SoCal, then a trip to Minnesota, and then we had Gommel, which was in Toronto, and then there was Shine, which was in almost Boston. So this is the longest break I've had, like in a few months, where it's 2 months before the next big one. So now I'm gonna try to like figure out my practice habits, like I was talking about, to try to figure out how do I optimize a day-to-day routine that makes me good in the current era where I could practice online for 8 hours a day if I wanted to.
Yeah.
You know? Especially because right now I'm not working, so it's like I should get good. You know, and then also I should spend that time to figure out how to make the content stuff, like I was talking about. Like I need to get on that. So. I guess the shout out would just, if I were to like plug, quote unquote, would just be like my Twitter or something. Like I'll just like put stuff on. I'll probably just tweet about whenever I'm doing stuff. That's like where everyone is. So Squid's Laugh on Twitter. So yeah.
There you go. Well, this has been Items On with Squid. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Ethiopium. Catch you on the next one.